All right, so to get started this morning, and we'll have some of our existing team join us. Again, this is a great time of year because obviously we're coming after Thanksgiving and we're gearing up for first of the year when things kind of get bonkers again for us. So it's a great time for you guys to be joining the team, and I'm excited for you each to be here. Couple things, couple introductions. Obviously, we're doing around the room, and you guys will kind of get to meet each other as the week goes on for sure. But I think all of you know Jeffrey Goldman. He's the district manager of Memphis, and so he's actually going to be moving into one of our roles, which is called a sales tech role. So he'll be leading all the sales things, all things sales kind of will fall under his purview. And so anyways, Jeffrey's been with us for a while now, took a little hiatus and went and worked for Home Depot, and there's some real value in some of the things that he'll be able to teach you in the coming days and weeks as well from that standpoint. But he's back and doing a great job moving Memphis in the right direction. So that's Jeffrey, and again, he can do his own introductions later on with more time. Natalie Gross, she runs my bought-in business. So as an organization, we either own or run 5 businesses. And so Natalie runs 2 of them essentially, which is the bought-in brand and Ad Logo. So all the spaces that you're in throughout this training, you'll be able to see. She actually runs all of those businesses. And so Bought In is a strategic growth business. So the things that we've learned from our 10 years, 11, 12 years with Home Depot, we've taken and started packaging so that we can help small businesses in our local communities to be able to help also scale, whether that be a variety of different products and services. So, but anyways, Natalie is the individual that runs that business. She's been with me for several years, and her and Andrew, which Andrew will be here shortly, he's on Zoom? Okay. So they both run my two main entities. So anyways, those are my right and left hands, if you would. Shaq is our video guy. He does a lot more than that, but basically he's here to help us record and create these lasting memories that we'll never be able to forget. So anyways, that's Shaq. And Andrew is on the screen. You can't see him right now, but I think all of you have met Andrew. He's our vice president. He is in charge of the HDI business, and all things lead to him when it comes to accountability for the things that we're doing today and learning over the next couple weeks. So anyways, and then I don't know, is Baz on the screen too? No, so Baz will be one of the other district managers that you'll be interacting with. Baz is our Richmond district manager. Been with us for, I think, 2 years now. Started out as a sales rep and has grown and become a pretty stellar district manager. Anyways, you'll get to know him a little bit more, and there's plenty of other people as well that we'll introduce you to as time progresses. I want to talk through the intent of today, and more importantly, the next 2 weeks. One of the things that you'll find, well, I'll say this, when you ask anybody that's worked for me for any amount of time, what is the one thing I value most, they will all tell you it is time. The one thing that I value most of all is time. And there's one of the things, there's a life principle to that, there's also a business principle, but it's important that as we go through the next 2 weeks, you also start to adjust some of your perspectives on time, because ultimately time is we only have a finite amount of it, and not all of us use it to its fullest. And so we want to teach you over the next couple weeks how to be productive with your time as opposed to being busy with your time. And so that's a lot of the things that we will talk about. And so anyways, that's the first principle that's important for you to understand. And so the way that we will be doing this training over the next several days is we will do 3 hours of instruction, and then there will be individual and collaborative work in the afternoons, and then we'll do a question and answer period at the end of each day, which as you're going through this training modular, Natalie will give you a link that you can go ahead and submit those questions to. I don't particularly care what they are what they are. If you want to send them over, and what we're going to do from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock every day is actually review those questions and answer them and deal with them. And so anyways, that's where I would tell you to put those things, so that way we can be as productive as possible with our 3 hours of instruction each day, okay? Also, it's really important to understand another piece of our model, which is ownership. And so ownership, the reason why time is important is because we're going to give you ownership of what it is that your role entails. And so you all, several of you are district managers in training as well, but for the salespeople in particular, we're going to be giving you 2 stores. And so those stores are your businesses, and it's important that you understand that we expect results from those stores. And that means that you're going to have to be a good manager and owner of your time, but also the results that come out of the way that you spent your time. And so when we look at the things that we look at from this business of ownership, it really is about taking real ownership of the things that you've been given. We don't believe in top-down delegation. We believe in providing an individual the tools to have success, and for them to take those tools and utilize them to be able to build and help us grow as a business and as an organization. And so it is a little bit different because, again, a lot of businesses, you look at things, the boss tells you what to do, and it's your job to do whatever the boss tells you to do. That's not really the way that we look at things. We look at it a little bit differently, and there's some benefits to that for sure. There's a great sense of accomplishment when you're actually able to take ownership of your own destiny and your own tools and things of that nature. But there's also some pitfalls, and so that's what we're going to work through over the next 2 weeks in particular, is eliminating some of those pitfalls by making sure that we have the right type of mechanics. And so you'll hear plenty of baseball metaphors or basketball metaphors as we kind of go through this, because the mechanics of those things really do translate to what we do on a daily basis when it comes to selling. So anyways, that's the intent. That's a little bit of ownership. I want to lay a couple rules of engagement. So it is important that you take notes. It's important that you're interactive. It's important that you're consuming what it is that we're giving you. But the 2 things that I don't allow is I don't allow excuses, and I don't allow I don't knows. So just fair game. If you give me either of those, don't be surprised if I push back and tell you that's an excuse and I'm not here to listen to that, or that's an I don't know and I don't care to waste my time with that, okay? So just so we're on the same page there. And the reason, I want you to understand the reason for that. It's not just because I want to be some sort of jerk or whatever else, but excuses, our job as leaders is to help people remove barriers, okay? So when you look at a district manager's mission, it's to help producers remove barriers. And that could be personal barriers, it could be professional barriers, it could be consumer barriers. It's our job to help them remove barriers. And one of the biggest things that holds people back when it comes to success is the excuses that they tell themselves. And so my job as a leader is to help my team when they come against their own excuses, is to help hold them accountable. Because that's an internal conflict. That's you against you. And so it's not you against me. And so my job is to really help you as you're working through that to make sure that you're able to continue to move and grow as an individual. So that's the no excuses piece. The I don't knows for me is really based on, there's 2 reasons why people say I don't know. The first would be because they really have no mental fortitude or no mental interaction going on between their ears. The second is because they're too self-conscious to actually say what they think. And in order to actually grow, you have to be self-conscious, you have to be vulnerable. And so when people come to the table and they go, I don't know X, Y, or Z, my first reaction is to go, no, look, you know what? You're obviously not an idiot. That's why we hired you. You got something going on between your ears. I want to know what that is, because my job as a leader and your job as leaders in the future is to help the individual see from your perspective, which should hopefully be an experienced, knowledgeable, wise perspective, right? And so just giving somebody an I don't know doesn't allow me to understand the thought process that got you to where you are. So basically, look, I don't know is it's important that you are okay with being silly. It's okay. You need to be okay with being wrong. You need to be okay with being vulnerable. So that's Those are my 2 rules of engagement. No excuses, no I don't knows, okay? So lastly is we will be moving fast. So throughout this training, we will be moving fast. The reason we're going to be moving fast and the reason that we've built this in this direction is because what you're going to find about this business is that in this business, everything relates to what happens at the dining room table, okay? And so what happens at the dining room table is a very intimate interaction between a consumer and a sales rep. But what it really boils down to is somebody has a problem and they've asked one of us to come and help them find a solution to that problem. And so what you find is that as we go through this, it's really important that you learn, in order to have success at that dining room table and throughout the business, you have to be able to take information, whether you think it is useful or useless. You have to be able to take information. You have to allow that to come into some sort of organizational format, and you need to be able to help derive whether or not that individual whether you can use that information to help move whether or not you can use that information to help that individual move in the direction of finding the solution. Okay? So that's why we've set it up this way. It's going to be a little bit different than maybe sales trainings that you've been in the past, but everything that we're doing is about learning how to take in data, organize it, and be able to provide it back in a manner that is conducive to solving a problem. Okay? And what you find, and here's how I would like for you to look at training over the next 2 weeks. Instead of looking at it as training, I want you to look at it as a project. The project of mastering your role as it pertains to the sales piece of this business. And so we're going to have checkpoints and we're going to have objectives and we're going to have goals for the next 2 weeks. And it's important that you make sure that you accomplish those goals as we work through this. And so what you're going to find is that those things are going to translate into helping you actually have success in the home or in other aspects of the business, whether it be in the store or so on and so forth. So anyways, that's kind of the introduction. It's going to, like I said, it's going to move fast. It's all on you to make sure that you stay up to par, up to track. Because we are going to be moving fast, so you have the tendency to fall behind if you're not careful and you're not diligent in paying attention and focusing and really also doing the individual work afterwards. And so anyways, that's kind of where we're at. So that is our introductions. So the first thing we're going to jump into, and again, now what are the questions? Where do they need to go? Okay, so we'll get to that piece. Okay, perfect. All right, so the first thing we need to talk about is how to get paid. So again, many of you should have already been able to get into Gusto before we entered into this. We send out a letter and you got your onboarding and stuff like that. The main thing that I want to talk about with Gusto is you need to make sure that you know how to use this. There's plenty of tutorials and different things. But I wanted to talk through what is Gusto, when will we use it, and how do I log in? And so anyways, those will be the things that we talk about briefly this morning and making sure that you guys understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish when it comes to Gusto. So what is Gusto? Gusto is actually our HR software, essentially. It is, long story short, one of the things that we've done over the last 5 years in particular is we've worked hard to consolidate systems and processes and redundancies. And so we are a pretty software technology forward company. Gusto allows us that ability to do some of the things that we never were able to do before. And so, anyways, when it comes to Gusto, it allows us to do several different things. It allows us to do time tracking. It allows us to approve and edit hours and put notes in, things of that nature. It allows us to do benefits management. as well as it has a banking option, so which is kind of a cool feature. Also, your employee onboarding and your management of your own personal profile in there makes it very easy. And then also documents, so various documents, employee documents, handbooks, things of that nature. Everything from an employee standpoint is in Gusto, or will be continuing to allow you that access at a real ease of access. And so that's one of the things in particular that you need to become familiar with, because if you're a sales rep today, you need to be logged in and you need to clock in. So that should be the first thing as you're listening to my voice, you should probably go ahead and do, because we want to make sure you get paid for your training. So for district managers, a little bit different. You're not going to be clocking in, things of that nature, but that's where the approval process and things of that nature, you also will need to be able to be pretty well versed in understanding how to access. And once you have team members underneath of you that are accountable to you, then you'll be approving their hours on a weekly basis, things of that nature. So, but anyways, that's Gusto. It's fairly easy to use. I would tell you, you need to get familiar with it. And also there is some login information on the screen. So if you need to figure out where that is, that's what you need to do. Log into app.gusto.com/login, and the email and password that you created in order to do your initial login will provide you access. Some of the other things, and I kind of touched on this very quickly, but when it comes to banking, that's another great benefit of Gusto. I don't know how many of our employees actually take advantage of it, but one of the big things is you actually have the ability, if you bank with Gusto, you have the ability to actually access your funds days before your paycheck. So that's kind of a cool feature. And it also allows you to pick your benefits packages and things of that nature. So anyways, it's a really great resource. And the reason why we ended up going to Gusto is because the benefits aspect of a business today have become rather strenuous, to be honest. So there's so many, because of the federal government taking over and the healthcare industry and things of that nature, it's created a lot of red tape, if you would. And so this gives us a great mechanism to be able to provide awesome opportunities for our people to help them as they continue to raise their families and continue to help us grow our business. So anyways, that's Gusto. So next we're going to talk about quadrants. And I think I got us back on track for time, so that's awesome. All right. So I want to talk through quadrants. Again, I hope you guys are taking great notes. You're going to need your notes. So we're going to see how good at note-taking you are. But one of the things in particular that I noticed about people when it comes to taking notes is if they were good at taking notes, they weren't really great at actually using their notes. So how many of you are pretty good note takers? Okay. How many of you ever go back and actually look at your notes? And how many of you reorganize those notes? Okay. So that's really an important aspect of understanding. There's a variety of different ways to take notes. And we're going to talk through some of those, but one of the important things is for us, we saw that there was a real disconnect between giving the information and executing it. So one of the things that Andrew and Natalie and I did is we spent a little bit of time going, okay, well, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve the problem of helping our team? We come to a meeting, we come to an interaction, we give them great information. They think it's great. It's not just that, we just think it's great, but everybody comes together like, yeah, you know what? This is useful, and it gets written on a piece of paper, and then it goes somewhere, and then we never see the reaction or the intentional execution of the things that we talked about. Anybody else been in meetings like that before where you've seen that type of, hey, you know what, this is good stuff, and then there's no action afterwards? Okay. So that was the problem that we were looking to solve. And so what we talked about is going, okay, well, it's interesting as you observe different types of people. And the cool thing is we sit here and we get to know one another over the next couple weeks and months ahead. you guys are all going to have some natural tendencies that kind of gravitate to various pieces of this quadrant. Some of you are very objective driven, meaning you're goal oriented, right? Whereby others of you may be much more operational or task oriented. And so what we found happens is that sometimes we have team members that are very task oriented, but they have no direction, right? It doesn't connect. And so they become very frustrated because over the long time, they just feel like they're constantly doing what? Just filling tasks. They don't have any sense of accomplishment. And then we also have some that are very goal-oriented that actually don't have any sense of accomplishment either because they don't have any connective tissue other than going, hey, you know what? This is a goal that I want to accomplish, and let's see if we can make it happen. And so this quadrant was developed to be able to help all of us make sure that we're having a sense of accomplishment as we go forward and set goals together. Okay? So let me just walk through what is this quadrant. So first and foremost, what you'll see on the top left corner is the objective. And so this is essentially the goal. And we're going to talk through some of these different types of goals. But when we talk about the goal or the objective, we're really defining the what. What is it? What are we trying to accomplish? What's our big, hairy, audacious goal? That type of thing. Then when we go to the top right, we talk about commitment. And so the reason why I made this the commitment aspect of it is because this is really the why as to, or the intention as to what it is that we're looking to do when it comes to the objective, right? So it's one thing to say, hey, you know what? I want to make $1 million. Okay, well, what's the why behind why you wanted to accomplish that goal? Well, because it's going to provide me happiness, or because it's going to better my life, or it's going to provide me a legacy, or whatever else. See, so often we don't go through and we don't actually define the why. Maybe it rattles around in our head, but it's important that when we talk about goals that we also define the why. What's the intent behind what we're calling out as our goal? Then the tasks. These are the hows. These are the connection between the commitment and the objectives. So a lot of times we know what we want. We may know why we want it, but we fall short because we don't know how to get it. And so tasks are defining the how to connect the commitments to the objectives. And then lastly is time. Because a goal without a time is just a wish, right? So whether you feel as though it's accomplishable or not, that's a whole other aspect of this, and we'll talk through that. But you need to make sure that you have a time, a deadline, an expectation of yourself or something, of someone, or of that objective being accomplished so that you can weigh and measure it against reality. And that's how you grow. That's how you have a sense of accomplishment. That's how you adjust when you don't meet goals. And so that's what when we refer to a quadrant, moving forward, this is what a quadrant is. And so this is why you also have a giant piece of paper, pad in front of you. Because you're going to, as we go through this, you're going to learn how to use this on a be something that is going to continue to be part of what you do, not just in training, but moving forward as part of our team. And what you'll find is that a lot of times, what I talked about earlier of auditing, is that you'll be in conversation, or you'll be throughout this training and you'll go, oh, you know what, that's an objective, or you know what, Jared just told us to do this task. I don't know how it connects. Why am I doing this, right? And so it allows us to take and go, okay, well, do I know my objective? Do I know my commitment? Do I know the tasks necessary to completing it? And do I know when it needs to be accomplished by? And so what we find is that this actually allows for better communication, not just with yourself of going, hey, you know what, this is how I want to have a sense of accomplishment, but also it's a great way to connect with team members to be able to go, okay, look, we interacted, I know what the objective is, I don't know what the deadline is. We didn't discuss that, right? So it allows us to audit that piece and to be able to come back and go, okay, great, now we're on the same page. So the reason this is relevant, not just to training, is because it goes back to, again, in the home, you're going to be getting a lot of different objectives from the customer, right? And you're going to be a lot of times customers going, well, you know what, I just want this thing to be pretty. I want it to be new. I want it to be shiny. But they don't know how. They don't know why. They don't know when, right? And so this is how we translate that into helping customers make decisions and ultimately helping our customers have what? A sense of accomplishment, which is to get what they invited us into their home to do. Okay? So that's a quadrant. It's how we developed it. It's how we use it. Again, so what I would ask all of you to do is on your piece of paper, the big pad, go ahead now and put together your quadrant. So that way you have a reference guide, and that way you can refer back to it for future reference. All right. Now, next up is what we call the funnel. And so the funnel is developed because what happens a lot of times in our business, and maybe in your life as well, is that you set goals, like we just talked about from the quadrant on the last slide. You set goals, but maybe you miss out on that accomplishment. And so what we've worked on is creating what we call our funnel to help people really be able to cast goals and have a sense of accomplishment. And if you're taking notes, which you should be, what you need to understand is that goals plus accomplishment actually equals relationships plus trust. And you go, well, what do you mean? Well, here's the thing. The more that you are able to properly forecast goals, and the more often that you're able to properly plan for those goals and actually have a sense of accomplishment, your relationship and trust with yourself will actually improve. So how many of you in the past have set goals and not accomplished them? Right? How often do we spend time actually assessing where we missed that boat? Okay, good. And that's right. So you beat yourself up. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is exactly what we're talking about. Because you had a goal, but you didn't have accomplishment, what that meant is that your relationship with yourself did what? It declined. So you don't trust yourself to be able to set and accomplish future goals because of it. Does that make sense? Now, it also means relationship and trust with me. Because as we go back and talk about the introduction of ownership, I'm going to be giving you pieces of my business. And it's important that you maintain a good relationship with me. And the best way to do that is to do what? No, the best way to do that is to actually accomplish goals. Because if you can accomplish the goals that we set out for you, then I can trust to give you more. And that's the important piece to understand about this, because again, the only way this model for us works, there's two ways to run a business, in my opinion. Top down, dictating what it is, micromanaging as to what it is that you're going to do and what you're going to provide, and you bobbing your head going, yes, we can, right? Or we can have an ownership-based model where each individual person has a set of objectives, has a set of responsibilities, and ultimately has the ability to have a sense of accomplishment, which provides a different level of pride when it comes to their role and purpose when it comes to their work. Look, we talk about this all the time as leaders. Our job as leaders, as part of our culture, is to help people become better people so they in turn become better professionals. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that you as a person are going to have some things in your life that hinder you from ultimately reaching your goals. It's my job as a leader to help you identify those and help you return back to the things that will help you have a sense of accomplishment. So, this is the funnel. I see a lot of you are writing it down, so I'm going to talk through it a little bit. So first of all, obviously you understand the timeline. That's an important aspect. When you look at the back left side of this, you've got work ethic, you've got talent, you've got knowledge, you've got desire, you've got awareness, and you've got ethics or morality. These are kind of the baseline things that are either innate, environmental, or they're learned, or all three, right? But these are the reasons why we've hired you. If you didn't have some of these things, there's really no point in us hiring you. If you don't have morality, sorry, I'm not interested in working with you. If you don't have desire to grow as a person and help grow the business, sorry, this is probably not the place for you. If you didn't have talent and work ethic, again, those types of things that you kind of have to come to the table with in order for you to be part of the team. And if, as you're watching this, you're feeling as though, hey, you know what, maybe I don't have some of the things that it takes, then you're probably not going to do too well in our business. And that's okay. That just means that you need to go develop somewhere else and you can come back some point, right? But that's kind of the entry level for us. Then you go down to the next tier, which is consistency, disciplined behaviors, and strategy. These are learned and desired. And the desired part is an important part of this. You can teach a lot of things, but you have to actually have a desire for it. And so when I look at success and the people that I've been able to be around for a long time that I would deem successful, what you find is that they have those things pretty well figured out. And it's our job as leaders to help our salespeople kind of figure those things out. Some of the reasons that we don't succeed is because we're inconsistent. Some of the reasons we don't succeed personally or professionally is because we don't have great behaviors, or we're not disciplined with those behaviors, or we don't have a strategy to actually get to where we want to go. And so again, this funnel is not just for the business, it's for you as people. And then the last tier is organization, tasks, objectives, and commitments. So these are some of the things that we've already kind of touched on already today. But these are necessary byproducts of the goal. So if you have the work ethic and you work to be disciplined, you got to be able to take your goals and figure out how to organize, prioritize, create tasks, all those types of things in order to actually reach your goal so that you not only have a goal, but you have an accomplishment. Okay? What happens is that we all have natural tendencies to go outside this funnel. And so that's why our job as leaders is to help you as salespeople return to the funnel when you get too far out. But more important than that is to teach you how to actually pivot yourself back into the funnel so that we don't have to be the ones to hold you accountable to those things, right? And that's really the key. And that's when you can go and say, you know what, this is phenomenal, this is great. Like being self-disciplined, being self-aware, being able to go and say, you know what, like I'm a little off course, I'm a little outside of my funnel right now. I need to return, I need to stop what I'm doing so that I can get back on track is exactly the goal of what we want to teach you as salespeople. Because it's not my job to babysit you, right? My job is to provide you as a leader, to provide you the tools to have success, and for you to take, and you can trust yourself to do these things and stay within this funnel to get there. Guess what? The sky's the limit, right? And so that's what we're going to continue to walk through and talk through over the next several weeks in particular. And again, the goal for you when it comes to this funnel is not for your direct supervisor to have to constantly push you back into the funnel, but for you to learn how to stop and pivot when you're outside of the funnel. So what do you mean? Well, there's going to be times where, for example, your tasks and deadlines are way out of whack, right? Well, you need to stop. Instead of just continuing to allow that snowball effect in the wrong direction, you need to stop, you need to reassess, and you need to get back into the funnel and get back into consistency so that you can drive forward, okay? And we'll talk more about that as time progresses over the next couple weeks. All right, so that's the funnel. Again, if you have questions about any of these things, write them down for the time being, and then we're going to give you a place to submit them, and we will answer any and all questions from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. today at our review question and answer time period, okay? All right. So let's talk about our first 15 days. So we have 1 through 10, and we have 15. Now, these are your objectives for the first 15 days. Now, they're not all of them, but these are the first ones. And so what we will be doing is we will be laying out where we need to be by the end of these 15 days in order for you to have a sense of accomplishment and reach your goals, which in turn will equal what? Relationship and trust with us as a team. So I want to talk through this. It's important that you understand that it's your responsibility to make sure that on each one of these days that you're accomplishing whatever the objectives are on this screen. And more importantly, as we continue to add objectives, that you continue to have that consistent behavior of accomplishment. So today, you have one objective. It's very simple. Get into Gusto, understand Gusto, know how to manage it, know how to use it. If not, you come in next week to get paid, and you whine and complain about not being able to do X, Y, and Z, too bad, not my problem. Own it, right? Your objective for today is to know how to use Gusto. Day number 2, we're going to go through nomenclature. We're going to discuss calendars, tasks, quadrants, funnel. You need to know what they are, what they mean, how to use them. You need to own it. Day 3, we're going to go through the pitch. One of the things that we're going to go through in a minute is the quadrant of the pitch. And you need to know the script by day number 3, which is for step number 3 on day number 3. Step number 3 is what we call our value proposition. It's a 7-minute script. It's important that by the end of day number 3, meaning midnight of day number 3, that you have that completely memorized. No ifs, ands, or buts. If, for whatever reason, you don't have that, you will not continue on my training. Just so we're on the same page. Day number 4, it's important that you know how to measure, that you understand what the intent behind each presentation slide is. You need to be able to give that, to be able to provide what the intent is. You don't have to have the whole script for all 100 slides, but you have to be able to look at each one of those slides and go, this is what I'm trying to communicate to the customer. Okay? Day number 5 is product. You need to know your doors. Now, we have a lot of different products, and there's a lot of different things going on. You need to know, you need to be able to look at the doors that we're going to provide you. You need to know the name of those, and you need to know the types of species that they are, which is going to be thermofoil or wood. Okay? So you're going to need to know those by the end of day number 5. So that's where you're going to be by Friday of this week. Those are the objectives that you need to accomplish. Going into next week, the transitions. So we actually give you transitions so that you know in between the different steps that we go through. You don't get lost along the way, and you don't fumble and get self-conscious and then blow the whole appointment. So we give you those transitions. You need to know those transitions like the back of your hand by day number 6. Day number 7, you need to know how to price. You need to know that price sheet back and forwards. Day number 8 and day number 9, they're blank, which means what? Which means that there's going to be objectives because I'm not in the business of handing out information, right? I'm in the business of giving hand-ups. And so what you can ascertain from that is that by the time, as we continue to move through this, you're going to be developing quadrants, and you're going to be developing objectives, and you're going to know that you need to have those accomplished by day 8 and 9. Day 10, which is next Friday, not this Friday, the following Friday, you're going to need to be able to have mastered pace, tone, and volume when it comes to the presentation. So you're going to need to not only be able to provide the information, but you're also going to need to understand the theater aspect of the presentation that needs to be provided in the customer's home, because we are in the business of giving the customer a value-added in-home presentation. Then you need to be able to have mastered the things that we've talked over the first 9 days when it comes to the presentation, the pricing, Bitrix, which is our system, and then the product. So those are the first 10 days. In week number 3, what we will do is we'll do in the field work, which you'll have more objectives to come when it comes to being in the store, as well as being able to run appointments in the home. And on day number 15, we will be doing what we call a training performance review, which is where we will sit down with myself or whomever. Each individual leader will sit down with their team member, and we'll go through and say, hey, you know what? Here's your goals for the next 90 days. And so those goals, I can tell you what 3 of the 4 are going to be, because they're going to be built around your role, which is what? Connect, prospect, selling, and developing. And so the first 3 are easy. You have to sell 180K in 90 days. You have to prospect 26 of your own demos, and you have to, last but not least, you have to connect with 325 Home Depot associates in 90 days, which is really achievable. And the 4th one that we don't have is develop. And so what we're going to use is the 3rd week of watching and observing you to be able to help sit down and lay out a plan for you personally and professionally for those first 90 days as to what we want to see and what hopefully you want to see from a developmental sense when it comes to, hey, these are some of the behaviors and some of the things that I'm lacking, right? Okay. So now you know where you need to be, which means the next 3 weeks are going to be a lot of work. But that's why I started with, how do you value your time? Because now you know what things are most important. It's also important to understand that you're not going to be the master sales rep after 3 weeks. But you need to master the presentation, the pricing, and the product in particular in order to have success in week 3. And so often it's important to understand that. In 90 days, after that 90 days after that, you absolutely, if you put the time in, you can absolutely be a master sales rep and making good money, having great sense of accomplishment, and having a lot of fun doing this business. But if you don't understand the value of your time and being busy with it versus being productive with it and budgeting it and all that type of stuff so that you're actually getting something out of your time, what you'll find is that you'll be like the statistics when it comes to sales reps, high turnover, right? And so that's not our objective. Our goal is not to turn people over. Our goal is to hire the right people that understand, that fit into our funnel, right? That have those initial innate things, morality and work ethic and talent, but then give them the tools to have success. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to have enough time in my day to sit there and babysit you and watch over your back to make sure that you're using the tools. I took 12 years to develop the things that we are giving you. It's important that you take and utilize them in whatever capacity you have. They work, they will work. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not going to beg you to use them, right? But that's how we will be able to see at the end of day 15 how you spent your time starting today. And we'll see at the end of 90 days after that how you spent your time, because the numbers don't lie, okay? Now I want to encourage you, because this is a lot of information. I want to encourage you by telling you this. When Andrew and I first got into this business 12 years ago, we got 4 hours of sales training in Boca Raton, and then were sent back with a business in a box, which included 12 crappy door samples, a price kit, and a book this tall of information as to how to do this thing. I'm giving you 15 days to learn it. All the things that we were given in 4 hours. And so I know that you guys are sharper and much better equipped than I and Andrew were 10, 12 years ago to be able to handle this and to be able to take and use these tools to make something for yourself and for us as a team and organization. Okay? So, all right, I am running a little behind, so I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. All right, next is Bitrix quadrant, pitch. All right, so, and I'm going to go into these in more depth, right, Natalie? I'm going into these into more depth at the 10 o'clock, so I can kind of go through this quickly. Okay. So if you guys want to take pictures of this, that's fine. All right. So this is your Bittrex quadrant. So this helps us hopefully understand a little bit more as to, oh my gosh, that knee tightened up real good there. Holy crap. So this should help us understand a little bit more of what we're talking about from an actual application standpoint when it comes to the quadrants. So the objective is, when it comes to Bittrex this week, is first of all, the calendar, blocking, and budgeting, something we're going to go through. Then you've got task creation, so understanding how to create a task, what that looks like, and then understanding the customer or the company comms. So how do we communicate as a company? Those are 3 objectives that we have when it comes to Bittrex. Now, when is the question, right? Well, we also need to understand the commitment, the how, before we get to the when. So the commitment, and as you can see, green to green, yellow to yellow, so on and so forth. So when we're talking about calendar blocking and budgeting, to be proactive instead of reactive. One of the things that's really important when it comes to this business is planning and preparation to have success. The more you react to things, the less likely you're going to be successful. Okay? That's in the home, that's in the store, that's with customers, all sorts of things. Being proactive as opposed to reactive. When we talk about task creation, to connect your what with your why. So being able to know any objective that you create moving forward, you now know how to connect it from the what to the why. And then understanding company comms, to effectively communicate with the team. It's important. We're a regional business. A lot of people go in a lot of different directions. Ownership requires accountability, and it also requires communication, right? And so understanding how to effectively communicate with us as individuals. The how. Generalize your action items when it comes to calendar blocking. Generalize your action items, allocate time for action items, and then input action items onto the calendar. So we'll talk more about that. When it comes to the task creation, input all objectives as parent tasks, input all tasks. So these are the tasks that you will be creating or have been created, one or the other, that you'll need to connect the what and the why. And then lastly is the time. So when it comes to our objective number 1, our deadline is day number 2. Our deadline for task creation is day number 2, and then understanding company comms is day number 8. Okay, so now you have a clear picture of what, why, how, and when as it pertains to the Bittrex quadrant. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't add more things, but as for right now, that's what we've given you. Okay, so next is the pitch. Natalie? Everybody give Natalie a round of applause, please. Seriously, she's got like 4 different things going. All right, so the next thing is, this is what calendar blocking is, okay? So what we talk about, and this is a very, as Jeff will attest, this is a very elementary version of it, but it's a matter of learning how to be much more proactive when it comes to looking through and saying, hey, you know what, this is where I want to be. And so as we're looking at this week, this is a great example of what calendar blocking and budgeting looks like. And so what you see is you've got training, which is instructional time period from 9 to 12. You've got lunch from 12 to 1, and then you've got independent work from 1 to 4, and then questions and reviews from 4 to 5. And so this is very easy. It's important that you not take for granted the elementary or the novice entry-level version of this, because I assure you that we will be moving you to expert level very quickly. So learning how to put these things in and learning how to utilize these time blocks from a general sense, what this does is it allows me to then take and budget my day and use the tasks that I've allocated for independent work to be worked on during this time slot, okay? And this will continue to make more and more sense as we continue to move forward. Next. You want me to use that? No? Okay. All right, so let's talk about how to make a task. Am I in your way? Okay. How to make a task. So when we're looking at tasks in Bittrex, what you'll find when we get you logged into Bittrex is you will have a new task, and that will be where you ultimately put in the actual name of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So one of the things that we use is called action items. So when you saw train or you saw independent or individual, any of the tasks that kind of fit into that time block would start off by going individual. And an individual, I want to learn how to do gusto, right? And so you'll put that in where the new task name is. Second of all is responsible person. So a lot of these tasks that we're going to be focusing on today and tomorrow are going to be you as the responsible person. So what you'll find is that the responsible person can be really the individual that needs to be responsible for this completion of the task. What you'll find is that you've got the created by participant observers. Participants, for example, are people that need to be part of this task with you. And then observers would be kind of the people that are holding you accountable to the task. Is the audio better? Okay. All right, next is deadline. So that is the when, right? When do I need to have this accomplished? And so there's some other things here, but this is kind of the basis of what a task is. Next. So when you actually hit more, which you saw on the bottom of that screen, what you're going to have the ability to do is focus on a variety of different things. But for today, what we want to talk through is time tracking. So if you select that, it allows you to actually budget the amount of time that you're going to be spending on that, whether it be 27 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes. Also, you've got subtasks. So one of the things that we're going to talk through is when you're talking about the overall objective, that is going to be what we call a parent task. And so the parent task is going to have what? Subtasks. So when you're looking at that quadrant, going back to it, you got your objectives, that's going to be a parent task. And then you're going to have subtasks, which are the actual, what? Tasks, right? That connect your objective to your commitments to your objective. Tags are hashtags, things that we use to be able to pull reporting. So that way you can easily filter the system. And then lastly, you've got dependent tasks, which are similar to subtasks. You need to do this task, and this task is dependent on that task. And so anyways, that's kind of a brief overview of the tasking aspect of Bitrix and how to make a task.
All right, so you guys are all going to go onto Bitrix 24, so it's Bitrix. Type it in. Did you do it already? Are you logged in? Okay, so everyone, bitrix24.hdi-531.com. Yep, Bitrix, Bitrix 24.hdi-531.com. Shaq, can you type that in the chat as well? Everyone in here at least have it up. All right, everyone just go to bitrix24.com and then click login. All right, so bitrix24.com, you guys see the login page? Yeah. All right, everyone will click login. Your email for HDI is going to be your first and last name. No caps or anything, no space, at HDI531. And then everyone's passwords right now will be password with a capital P 2022. You guys can change that whenever we're done with training.
All right, so look, I need to go back. I apologize. I jumped a little ahead, moved a little too quickly. So we got another 7 minutes. I'm gonna hammer out the time blocking because you guys are gonna have some homework on that this evening or this afternoon. Sorry. So I want to talk through the how we got to the time blocking piece. As you can see here, we've broken it down into the training and independent work and lunch and things of that nature. And again, this is a very elementary version of what you will inevitably need to do. When you're talking calendars in particular, one of the things that we talk from a goal sense is we work 90 days backwards. So as we were talking about that funnel before, goals and accomplishments, things of that nature, what we want to do is we want to be able to take our objective and we want to work backwards and be able to forecast and budget enough time to be able to hit our goals, essentially. So just for what we're doing the next 2 weeks, what we've done here is we've scheduled enough time or blocked enough time, budgeted enough time for each afternoon for you to do the necessary work to hit the objectives. So when you go back to thinking through, okay, well, what is our objective for today? Well, our objective for today is to spend time in Gusto. So what you would need to have is a task that is associated with getting to know Gusto, and then you need to work that time or work that task in this time block. And so that's kind of the idea, the practical application when you're taking calendars and you're associating them with tasks and things that you're going to find in Bitrix as we continue to move forward. So the overall generalization for the training portion of what we're doing the next 3 weeks is important. But what you need to know is that as we continue to move forward, we have what we call action items that are already preset so that they align with other aspects of our CRM, Bitrix, and whatnot, so that you can filter accordingly and manage your business, whether you're a sales rep or a DM or whoever. So generalization is important, so that way you have a quick reference guide. And when you're looking at your calendar, you're able to see farther than just today. And so one of the problems that we run into in this business is so often people only think about today or tomorrow, maybe yesterday, but they don't think far enough ahead. And so that's why they really aren't spending each day really working towards their goals, right? It's just constantly reacting to whatever's going on around them. And so by time blocking, the way to time block effective is actually to start by time budgeting. And so what you need to do is you need to take the number of hours that you're going to be working and on the days that you're going to be working, you need to be able to take and go, okay, well, I'm putting 8 hours in here, I'm putting 10 hours over here, I'm putting 6 hours here. And that's kind of the beginning phase. Before you start doing all this in a system, you need to be able to do it on pen and paper and go, okay, over the next 7 days, this is the time block that I'm going to have. Now, we made it very simple for you for this exercise. Again, this is the handout version. So this is what you're going to need for your own calendars. But what we're wanting to be able to teach you to do is actually do this for a longer period of time. And so what we do as a company is we do a month in advance. So as a sales rep, you're going to have an expectation, a task that's automated in the system that the 15th of each month, you have a 4-week rolling calendar up to date with your availabilities. And when we talk about availabilities, is the days in which you're going to be available to work. And so your district manager will approve those, but that is the expectation, is that you are constantly managing 4 weeks of revolving availabilities of I'm working these days, okay? Then from there, you start backing it up and going, what we want to be able to see is what we call an 85% rule. And so in the next 2 weeks, I want to build a solid plan that I don't have to adjust a ton, meaning less than 15% for the next 2 weeks. So when I'm forecasting and budgeting for my calendar, where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be focused on, that needs to align with what I've got my goals around, which is what? 180K in 90 days, 325 interactions, 26 prospects, right? And so when you start breaking that down, you now know, okay, by the end of this week, I need to do what? I need to prospect 2 demos. I need to interact with 25, I need to connect with 25 associates in the store. I need to sell 1 deal, right? And so that's kind of the idea, is that you're able to take and budget your time so that you're focused on the 4 pillars of your business, which are what? Prospect, connect, sell, and last but not least, develop, right? And so that's kind of the way that you start focusing this. Now, these 2 weeks, you're really focused on what? You're focused on training, right? Developing, those types of things. So putting the work in necessary to be able to get to a mastery level of selling. All right, so the collaboration. So these are the these are the 5 action items that I'm going to give you for your exercise for our training. And they are instruction, application, collaboration, independent, and review. Instruction, application, collaboration, independent, and review. And so let me explain what the action item is again, because you're going to create a bunch of different tasks, and the system will create tasks for you as time progresses. And so you want to be able to filter so that you can easily see the types of work with the deadlines that each task will have. So that way when you start your day or end your day, you're able to look and go, okay, well, this is what I have on my plate. This is what I accomplished, right? So it's as simple as that. And so by using action items, it allows us, instead of everybody going and writing their own type of information into a task, you can write whatever the description is that you want, but the overall action item needs to be the same, so that way we speak the same language as a business. Does that make sense? So the other one caveat is that all action items, when you put them into a task, are all caps. And you'll understand more about that as we continue to talk through tasks over the next couple days. But the action items are all caps, and they have a semicolon behind them. So that's the things to know. And so anyways, that is the calendar. Task creation, Perfect. Just for ease of time, that's why we want to make sure that you've got the ability to post any of your questions throughout the day right there, and we'll deal with all of them from 4 to 5 o'clock today. Okay? And then if you're live streaming, you will put them on Twitch. So, all right. All right, moving forward. So now we're going to change gears, shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about value proposition. So the script is, as you saw on your objectives, on Wednesday of this week, you need to be able to know our 7-minute script, basically. And that is step 3, which we're going to go through after this. We'll go through the 10 steps, but that is step 3. And so what you'll find as we kind of continue to go through this training is you may have questions like, well, how does this connect to this or whatever else? I understand the need to wonder why we're doing what we're doing, and I'm going to tell you why we're doing it in this order. And the reason that we are is because we want to make sure that we're focused on the right priorities. So often we get kind of muddled into like, well, this piece or that philosophy or over here. And what I want to make sure is that you have a clear understanding of what your expectations are and what you need to deliver when it comes to executing your objectives. And so that's why we've really focused, instead of going through and going, hey, these are the 10 steps and here's a company story and all this other crap. I really want you to understand accomplishing things is what we're here to do. That's what we're focused on. And so the first things we need to accomplish today is Gusto. The second thing we need to accomplish is Bittrex. And I get Bittrex is challenging. You're going to have questions about it, and you want to know connective tissue and how does this work with that. I get it. But I need you to focus on the things that we're giving you so that we can make sure that we hit our goals and our accomplishment, and we have a sense of accomplishment. And so that's why it may not all feel like a cohesive, start to finish, because it's not. It's really based on, these are the priorities, these are what you need to focus on. When you focus on these, then you'll be able to pull it all together at the end, okay? Make sense? Cool. So let's talk value proposition. Look, I will tell you one of the other expectations I should have given at the beginning, and I apologize because I did not. But for me, I don't believe there's any bad lead. I believe that there's only bad salespeople. A lead is simply an opportunity to identify a problem and help somebody find a solution. And so when you go into any type of lead and go, well, it's the call center's fault, or it's the customer's fault, or it's the DM's fault, or it's the store's fault, you're already creating barriers for yourself that are going to hinder your ability to grow. And so There are people that are more ready to buy today than others. I will admit that. But that does not mean that that's a good lead versus a bad lead. And so it's important that you understand that your job as a sales rep, as part of our organization, is to be a value-added sales rep, which means you are the catalyst that changes whatever environment that you walk into. So I do not deal with, as you've heard earlier, I do not deal with excuses. I do not deal with I don't knows. I also don't deal with bitching and complaining about leads. And I can say that because I've experienced good, bad, indifferent, whatever you want to classify any lead, because when we started this business, we went from where we are today, which is in Central Virginia, we went 4 hours north, we went 4 hours south, we went 6 hours west to run a lead, right? And so I understand what it's like to be in the car. I also understand what it's like to have a wife and a young child at home while I'm in the car driving around, rural hell, essentially. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for people that whine and complain about the quality of lead. Because what I will tell you is anytime you have a quality salesperson, the lead quality does not matter. Because they believe themselves to be the value that adds to the situation. And so what we have to understand is that sales are not some sort of boogeyman. They really are nothing more than problems and finding solutions. That's it. And so for me, I always liken it to mathematics. If you give me an equation, I was a good student, but I wasn't a very studious student, right? I passed by like turning in stuff. But I really never appreciated math going through high school because I really didn't understand how it was applicable. For me, I'm a why guy, right? Like if you tell me to do something, I'm gonna ask you why you want me to do it. I need to understand the intent, and that's probably why you're gonna see a lot of what we're providing you from a sales training standpoint around the why. But what I would tell you is I didn't really understand math because I didn't understand that it was nothing more than problem solving until I got into construction and we started using geometry and being able to see how math translated into practical application. Closing and sales is nothing more than mathematics. There's a variety of different variables that you do know, that you don't know, that you have no idea about whatsoever. But your job is to really search out as much of those variables that you can so that you can fill A plus B plus C plus D equals whatever. And so that's for me why I would go back to, as we go through this process, you have to understand that your job is to be a problem solver. But in order to be a problem solver, you have to be a problem identifier. And you've got to not allow your problems to cause the customer problems. And so those are some things that I want you to kind of think on. And look, if you have questions about them, by all means, you can ask me, hey, Jared, I think you're full of shit. Like, here, this is a bad lead. Okay, well, we can talk through it. I got no problems having conversations about it. But I will tell you that I've driven 7 hours, 8 hours for one lead. No bullshit. Wheeling, West Virginia, right? Drove overnight, showed up at the house at 8 o'clock, and you better believe that I sold it, right? Because my mentality was, I have to sell it, right? Because I have to find the problems and I have to help this person find the solutions. And so when I look at and I hear from district managers or salespeople, hey, you know what? Like the call center isn't doing their job, or hey, you know what? The store didn't tell the customer the right thing. I don't particularly listen to that. I take the feedback. If there's something that we can improve on, I'm all about like improving relationships or processes or whatever else. But your job as a salesperson is to be the difference maker, to be able to sit there and go, hey, you know what? What problems do you have? What problems do you not understand that you have? And how can I help be part of the solution? And I find that if you're able to do that, if you're able to make sure that you have the right mentality as you go through this, that you'll sell more things than you won't. You're never going to sell everything, but you'll sell more things than you won't. And more importantly, you'll have a fun time with this. Like getting rejected is miserable, but it doesn't mean that it's the end of the road. You can learn things from being rejected. In fact, most of my successes come from my biggest failures because I was able to learn from them and go, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that again. And so how often are we going into the house today and going, hey, you know what? I'm blaming the lead instead of me. Well, guess what? If you're blaming someone other than yourself, you're not able to grow because you have no control over that other person or that other thing. But if you go and run a lead that you maybe felt like isn't the best lead in the world, but you were able to try to be able to move that customer in a direction, and then you were able to learn how maybe your approach or maybe your words or maybe your body language was different and had greater impact, that's a huge opportunity for you as a person to grow. And again, those things will pay off for you. So anyways, didn't mean to get on this. Yes, Jeffrey.
I was going to add something. I'm worse than he is when it comes to leads because I grew up in the family where if they knew they had a pulse and they knew they were breathing, that's a lead. Okay? Because the truth of the matter is the qualifications, they own the house, the decision makers will be there, they have an interest in the product, and they'll give us an hour time. That's it. Not only are we value-added salespeople, because we're going to have to teach our designers this, where we take the value of our product and services, enhance it tremendously, right? We're also what's considered creative salespeople. Just why in-home sales, your income is unlimited potential. Because what we do is we create a want, a need, and an urgency where there wasn't necessarily one when we got there. And that's why the lead doesn't really matter, because we have to create that.
Correct.
Create the enthusiasm for the product.
All right, so let's talk through step 3, value proposition, and most importantly, the script, the thing that you need to memorize and be able to perform on by Wednesday night. So this is the first slide of the when you get the presentation. So you will be getting the presentation in the next at some point here the next day or so. But this is the beginning of that presentation. And so, anyways, that gives you kind of an idea of where you'll be getting for step 3. Next slide. What do I got next? Yeah. Oh, so this is the first one. Sorry. All right. So first and foremost, what you're going to find as we go through this, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you the intent. Okay. I'm not going to give you every word that we're going to be saying or anything else. I'm going to be giving you the intent because I think it's important that you understand the why behind what the customer is seeing before you worry about all the things that you need to be saying, okay? And that will hopefully make it easier. Well, not hopefully, it will. It'll make it easier as you go to verbalize the intent for yourself. So you need to be able to see this slide and go, hey, this is what I'm trying to communicate. That is what we're working towards right now, okay? So first and foremost is planning for my project. This is what the customer will see. And so what they see is what you see. You got a company, you got products, investment, installer, warranty. What we're really trying to communicate to the customer is these are the questions that they need to find solutions for when it comes to their project. And if you think about it, if you don't have one of these 5, what are you probably going to have? A tough time, right? So making sure that you have the right 5 is what we're going to be working towards. And that's why when we start this presentation, we're laying this out at the very beginning so they understand this is what the problem is, and we're going to talk through some of the subsequent problems as we go through this presentation, but we want to find the solution for these 5 things when it comes to their project. Okay? So the intent, again, is to lay out the framework of these are the 5 things that you really got to answer in order to be able to buy something. Okay? And all the objections that you'll ever see in closing will feed right back into these one way or the other. Now there's stalls and there's delays and there's all sorts of other things, but when it comes to truly going, okay, what are the objections? It's got to be one of these 5. Okay? So these are the questions that the customer has to ask. So that's the intent of slide number 1. All right, keep going. Sorry. All right, this is slide number 2. this is the cliche contractor. And so one of the big issues when it comes to the construction industry is that there's not really a standard as to what quality experience means, right? And so what we're going to do, the intent of this is to provide the customer the opportunity to either be reminded or to be aware that there's some real pitfalls when it comes to them getting what they want, which is a construction project. Next. So after we provide a problem, we're going to also then do what? We're going to provide a solution. Why we believe Home Depot is the solution. Now, one of the things I'll tell you, and this is just a sidebar from the intent, but it's really important that you be able to figure out why you're doing what you're doing. What's your commitment when you're looking at how you want to be able to perform in this business? For me, I'll tell you from my perspective, because I was in construction for a long time before we joined Home Depot, I can tell you that this is near and dear to me, and this is why we continue to be part of the Home Depot family, is because the brand that is Home Depot does provide customers something that me as a general contractor could not. There is a weighted presence going, hey, you know what? Like if a customer gets pissed off with ABC Inc. or Jared Hagner, you know what? They're out of luck. They got some legal opportunities, but really, who wants to go through all that? Most people just want to be resolved, right? And so when you're dealing with ABC Inc., that's some of the things that you deal with when it comes to construction. Home Depot, you don't have to deal with just one person. You can go in and go, hey, you know what? I'm having some real problems. I need some solution. Now, there's people that take advantage of that for sure, but this is why I'm a big fan of Home Depot, is because of what it is that the power of Home Depot provides customers, whether it be not just being able to support them in getting resolution, but also being able to have buying power and being able to provide some really excellent service or excellent opportunities, unique opportunities to buy specific services and products. So anyways, that's what I think is important. You got to make sure that you're not just going in and saying, hey, you know, buy Home Depot. It's got to be something that you can articulate, that you can understand and not only speak to, but actually convey through your body language and your enthusiasm for Home Depot. But anyways, the intent here is to provide the customer solution. Let them know that Home Depot is the world's largest hardware store and the biggest brand when it comes to being able to provide them an amazing service. Okay? So next. Next is the vested interest, and this is one of my favorite slides. The intent here is to actually use mathematics and logic and analytics to be able to prove an emotional point, okay? Because we talked about, first of all, these are the 5 concerns. Then we're talking about the pitfalls of getting a solution, just anybody solving this problem for the customer. And then we're talking about, well, Home Depot is the best and brightest. And of course, the customer's going to go, well, yeah, you're here to represent Home Depot, right? Well, this is mathematically. The intent of this is to use mathematics to prove the points that we built upon in the first 3 slides. And so what we talk through in this is really talking through or laying out for the customer if they went one route versus the other. So from an analytical sense, there's a reason why contractors don't continue to show up versus Home Depot, right? Because there's ultimately $0 of accountability versus $95,000 or $100,000 worth of accountability. So it's really being able to draw that out and go, this is why, even if you spent $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, why at Home Depot we're going to still take your phone call because you're going to spend more money with us, right? So it's advantageous for us to do that. And so that's the intent of this, is not just to be emotional, but take the emotions that we created in the first 3 slides and then add a logical, analytical element to be able to go, oh, light bulb moment, right? And I'll tell you, this works. The reason I know this works, I did some video shooting with my parents probably 5-6 years ago, and I used this type of thing, and at the end of the shoot, my dad looks at me and goes, and he wasn't looking for a kitchen, he goes, I never thought of it that way. That makes a lot of sense. Why Home Depot would do what they do. So again, if it can work on somebody that's not buying, I can tell you it can work on somebody that is. Next. Then we come to this slide, which we talk about the industry options. Now, look, it's important that you understand that makeover is not some sort of massive brand recognition solution out there. You don't see it all over HGTV, right? So, a lot of customers may or may not know what makeover is or is not. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to share with them, these are the 3 different types of solutions that you could look at for your project. You can renew your kitchen, you can make it over, or you can renovate it. And we're going to talk through them. Next. So first we're going to talk about renew. The intent here is really to be able to show them that there's 2 options in that renew solution, and neither of them are pretty. Neither of them are enjoyable, and neither of them are going to give the customer the end result that they're looking for. Not from a long-term sense.